Okay, welcome everybody. I think we'll get going now. We've got a few people online, so it's a good opportunity to start the webinar. Okay, I'd just like to welcome everybody today to our webinar, and today we're going to be talking about Nintex, their new releases for Office 365. And I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Rick DeMarco, and I am the Partner Manager for OBS. So I work with all of our partners, and today we're going to be talking about our partner in terms of Nintex. So now I'll just hand over to Kevin to introduce himself.
Hi everybody, my name is Kevin Anfield. I'm a consultant for OBS up in Brisbane. I mainly specialise in business process automation, so Nintex Forms and workflow, as well as a few other technologies. And I'll be presenting a lot of the more technical stuff and showing you Nintex workflow and forms for Office 365.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kevin. All right, so just a bit of an agenda about the items that we're going to cover today. So it's going to talk a little bit about who Nintex are. Some of you on the call may not know who they are. It's going to talk about how they've introduced their new products in the cloud, and specifically around Office 365. There's a few key points that it's probably important to understand about these new products that are available. Going to talk a little bit about some of the business value that you can get by using the new technology from Nintex. A lot of people sort of ask some questions around how does it compare to out of the box, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I guess the most important thing, which is probably why everybody's here, is to run through a series of demos, which Kevin has mentioned is going to take you all through. Okay, so I know there are probably a number of you who are quite familiar with the Nintex brand and associated products. However, for those who are hearing about them for the first time, I'll do a bit of a sort of a brief introduction. So Nintex are primarily a SharePoint products-based business whose sole focus is really about helping organisations automate business processes and extending those processes to where people actually work on any device they use. One of the common words that, or the catchphrase that Nintex use is around being SharePoint for everyone, which is really about allowing all types of users within an organisation to build, deploy and automate processes quite quickly and easily. And they do this by using their flagship product, Nintex Workflow. So Nintex, I guess, after releasing their Workflow product, quickly realised that many of these business processes that were being automated needed some way of capturing input from the user. And they also identified that there was a clear opportunity within SharePoint to improve the overall design and UI elements of standard SharePoint forms. And this is where the Nintex Forms product was born. And more recently came the introduction of the Nintex mobile apps, which really extends the power of Nintex Workflow and Nintex Forms onto mobile devices. And this allows users to respond to tasks, workflow tasks, as well as complete various forms from anywhere, anytime, and on any device. Okay, so now with the introduction of Office 365, and I guess playing an important role in Microsoft's investment in the platform, Nintex has decided to develop from the ground up their new Nintex Workflow and Forms product for Office 365. So let's have a look at a bit of a high level about what they can do. So we can now design and run forms in the cloud. Like the on-premise product, you now get access to the full drag and drop experience for both Workflow and Forms. And this really allows you to sort of build highly scalable business processes and customize those processes to better engage users. And this is where the Forms product comes into play. Nintex have also introduced this concept of the Nintex Store. And the Nintex Store is really a container for a whole collection of different enterprise actions that can be used within your workflows. And these actions can range from things like Exchange Online for sending meeting invites to connecting to your on-premise site. It also includes a whole range of actions to cater for things like provisioning of Office 365 accounts, associating permissions, and also doing a range of things with inside Yammer. And we're going to show a number of these actions through our demos today. And lastly, through, I guess, the creation of Nintex Forms, we can really extend your business processes outside of your organization. So now it's really easy to create, deploy and publish web and mobile enabled forms using the Nintex Live platform. And so you can extend these forms throughout your organization or externally outside of your organization. And the Nintex workflow also allows you to automate many parts of the process, so when dealing with external parties. And like I mentioned earlier, this is going to form sort of a key part of our demo today. So I guess there's a few important points to, I guess, talk through around the new products. And the first one is that just like Office 365, the workflow and forms is really a software as a service offering. So it's sort of in line with the Office 365 model, and it shouldn't be different to anybody. The other important thing, it's being developed and built on the new SharePoint app model. So those of you who have, I guess, an Office 365 tenant, you'll notice that everything's an app that's available for install. And SharePoint has an app store, and so the apps are basically available through this store. Importantly, however, that these apps are actually hosted in the Azure platform and not within Office 365 itself. It's also important to understand that these products are actually completely new. So Office 365 actually has a brand new workflow engine, and Nintex has actually developed the product to interact with this new engine. So the engine is actually a different workflow engine compared to the on-premise platform, which is why they had to basically build a brand new product. And like I mentioned earlier, there's this concept of the Nintex store, which Kevin will show sort of through the demos. At the moment, there's probably around 60 or 70 different actions available. However, in the future, Nintex is going to make a range of actions that are actually going to be available for purchase. And so, as you can see, by doing that, there's going to be an ever-growing amount of actions available in the store. And I guess for the people that are familiar with the on-premise product, over time, a number of these features are going to be made available within Office 365 where they make sense. So now I just want to talk a little bit about some of the business value that's I guess available through using the Nintex products in the cloud. So those who are familiar with the Nintex family suite probably already know that at its core, Nintex is really about helping organizations improve business processes. And this is done by empowering business users and IT professionals to quickly and easily automate processes. Now that could be from a simple leave form or leave request to complex integration across a range of different applications. And so Nintex has had these solutions available for the on-premise environment for quite a long time now. And so now they've actually enabled them for Office 365. The other great thing, as I mentioned earlier, is because they're apps, it's really easy to get going, and you can literally be up and running, building your first form or your first workflow within seconds. You know, there's no need to wait for any infrastructure or IT people to deploy the solutions. They're there and available for you to get going quickly. And because it actually is a cloud product, there's constant innovation. So you will see over time that there's more and more actions that are actually going to be available within 365, and that will be an ongoing process, and they will become more and more available as time goes by. So the good thing is you always know that you're actually going to have the most up-to-date version because it's in the cloud. It's quick and easy. So Nintex really prides themselves on saying that their products are focused on the business user, and as a result, this makes the products really easy to get going, really easy to learn, to use, and to master. So we know that many customers will continue to have a hybrid scenario where they use their on-premise SharePoint environment with an Office 365 environment. So these products enable you to be able to talk between the two different platforms. We'll talk a little bit about that in some of the demos. So if you have an on-premise environment, you'll be able to push information into 365. And however, coming back the other way, you'll also be able to push information from Office 365 back into your on-premise environment, and Nintex makes this pretty simple. And like I mentioned earlier, Nintex Workflow and Forms is really about trying to help you go beyond the out-of-the-box experience that you get with 365, and really about making it easier and simpler for users to get up and running really quickly. So like I mentioned earlier, just talk a little bit about sort of the SharePoint workflow versus, I guess, the capability that you get with Nintex. So Nintex provides obviously a whole range of different actions that are available to you. And like I've already mentioned, things like, the Office 365 licensing, there's a whole range of actions around social media, Facebook, Twitter, Yammer, and those types of things. You can access things like external file shares and even interact with Exchange Online. So there's a lot more actions available to you if you're going down the Nintex path. I've already sort of mentioned this quite a number of times, but the actions are continually being added to the store, and I can imagine this time next year there'll be literally hundreds of available actions for you to use. The great thing is, out of the box, you can get drag and drop functionality. This is available for both Forms and Workflow, so it's really easy to get going. And the other thing is that Nintex have made quite a big investment in making their products cross-browser compatible. So the things that we're going to show you today will work in Chrome, Firefox, and the IE browsers. So it doesn't really matter that what browsers people have, that they should be able to get up and going pretty quickly. So I guess now it's time to actually jump into the demos, and I guess that's why everybody's here today. So the first demo we're going to sort of talk about is, I guess, an onboarding process. Most organisations have a way of onboarding new employees, and we do a lot of this type of work for many of our customers around trying to automate a number of those processes. So really the objective of this demo is to show how we can automate onboarding new employees into Office 365 using the Forms and Workflow products. So Office 365 presents a few challenges around creating new accounts and assigning the correct licensing options. There's a whole range of different licensing options available in Office 365. And this is where we can actually use the actions from the store to automate a lot of these tasks. Alternatively, this could also be done, but you'd have to do a lot of it manually. So having said that, I will now hand over to Kevin to talk about the onboarding process. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Rick. I'll just make sure that we are looking at my right screen. Yep. Okay, so you should now be able to see a Chrome window. And what we're going to initially do is fill out a new employee form. This would typically be done by someone in HR or a recruitment type area. And this just really asks for some basic information about the person, first name, last name, what department they're going to be part of, and what date they're starting on. Throughout the workflow, we'll use a lot of this information to create the account and assign the license and all of those kind of things, going back into the sort of admin area within Office 365. So we'll just create our new employee. This form that you can see here is an Nintex form that we've obviously customised with an OBS logo, some naming, some colouring, some slightly different colouring on the labels, and a few different things. So we can just fill this out. It's sort of fairly simple to fill out. Oops, if I could spell my name correctly. And we'll choose a start date of Thursday next year. So I'll click on Save, and just like any normal SharePoint scenario, that saves an item into our new employees list, and the workflow that's on this particular list is set to start automatically on creation of a new item. So while we're talking, our workflow has started. Like I said, you can see that I'm in Chrome, and that form worked perfectly in Chrome, and as it does in Internet Explorer as well. So just because I've got everything set up in Internet Explorer, we'll just bring that window up now. And you can see here that this is the designer, the workflow designer, for the workflow that's currently starting and running in that background. So I'll just quickly take you through some really simple facts of the designer. Obviously it's in the browser. Those people with keen eyes can probably see that there's a slightly different URL at the top there, and that's because it's now we're running inside an app within our Office 365 area. It looks and feels very similar to the on-premises version of Nintex Workflow if you've used that. If not, it's pretty simple. You can get to some settings about the particular workflow, give it a name, description, and set up how it starts. We can access some variables. All workflows have lots of variables, and you can see this one here. I've got lots of different variables to do lots of different things. One of the new things that's slightly different from the on-premises version is how you create variables. So, test variable 1, and we can choose lots of different types and those kinds of things. We've got lots and lots of different actions. Like we've been saying, this version of Nintex Workflow for Office 365 has a whole lot of actions that the SharePoint designer or the out-of-the-box workflow designer has, but it also adds a lot of those other Nintex Store actions. And you can see here, these ones here that I'm hovering my mouse over right now, they're all the standard actions, but then Nintex adds all of these other Office 365 actions. And all of those actions are built or added into the design surface from the Nintex Store. So, and you can really easily access that Nintex Store just by clicking on the Store button, and then you get a window which allows you to browse through all of those different actions that are available by Nintex or other developers when they see fit to create other actions. And for example, we've got actions specifically for posting or adding a message or adding a file, sorry, to SkyDrive. We've got ones that go into Yammer, which we'll be using throughout this workflow. So there's a whole lot of different actions that you can do for lots of different purposes. And a matter of adding those, so if we wanted to add these Facebook ones, it would just be a matter of adding the whole Facebook pack, and then they'll be available in that toolbox pane on the left-hand side. So just wait until it does that. We'll close the store down, and then eventually we'll be able to see those Facebook actions. So talking about the workflow itself, obviously it's a drag and drop interface, like Rick said. So if we wanted to drag an action onto the designer, it's just a matter of clicking down and holding down on the action in the panel, and then dropping it on one of the dots, and then that automatically adds it into our design surface. And to configure it, we just double click on it, and then we can configure the specific properties for that particular action. And obviously all the different actions have lots of different settings and those kind of things. So it really depends on what the action is as to what you need to do. I'll just delete that one so it doesn't dirty up my workflow. So while we've been talking, more than likely what's happened, if everything is working correctly, is we've got through all of these initial steps. We've created an Office 365 user, which I'll go into our admin portal and check to make sure that it's worked. We've done some smarts around licensing. So because there are so many different license plans available for Office 365, you need to retrieve what's available in your specific tenant or your instance of Office 365. You need to do some processing on those, and then you can assign the license to the user. And then to make sure that they can actually access the SharePoint environment, you can add those users to a security group. So while we've been talking, I'm positive that we would have now had a new user created. I'll just refresh the screen and show you that so you can see it. While I'm waiting for that to happen, it's taking a little bit longer than I thought, we'll just refresh this screen so we can see the new item, the new employee item for Daniel. And we can go into the workflow screen, and we can see that our provision new employees workflow is running, and it's currently at the status of creating a blog post. So what at this point in the workflow, the workflow is actually waiting for me to do something, or waiting for Daniel, the new employee, to do something. So I'll just show you a few things. So I'll just drag across one screen. You can see down here we've got Daniel Miller. So he's our new employee. He's been created. And if we go into him, we should be able to see the licenses that he's been assigned, which is all of them. But as an administrator, you would be able to go in here and change these if you wanted to, or as a workflow designer, you would have been able to choose a different license plan to apply to this particular user. I could also go in there and show you, that he's been added to the group, but we'll see that in a second once we try to access the actual environment. So I just need to grab his password. Actually, what should have also happened is I, as the person who created the item, I should have also received an email, which I have. And this shows that this has also been sent to Daniel, the new user, to say that your new environment or you've been added to the OBS Cloud environment, you've got access to this site, here's your username and password. So we'll just copy out that password and I'll log in as Daniel in another browser. These kind of things we need about 15 different browser windows to be able to demo them properly. So I'll try and explain everything that I'm doing